Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another show. And yeah, I've got an old new mic that I finally figured out how to use this. So if you've got any problems with the audio, please let me know. Then I can see if I can fix it. All right. Today, I'm going to chat to a cool guy called Conrad Hicks, who's a metal artist, blacksmith, tool maker, and found him via Instagram. Really cool guy. Let's see where this goes. Right. Here we go. Hi, Conrad. Conrad, can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me? It's not, your audio is not connected on that side. Is your audio connected? There we go.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, Conrad?
Oh, sorry. I've never done this Zoom thing.
That's fine. That's fine. We all learned by swimming in the deep end.
Cool. Yeah.
How are you?
No, I'm fine. I've just been quite busy today, actually, compared to the last couple of weeks.
That's good. That's good. Have you got any commission stuff that you're working for clients, or just stuff that you've been doing for yourself?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of work. But I also do, a lot of my own work. But at the moment, I'm doing quite a big commission for a piece in the States that I'm trying to finish.
Okay. Yeah, like to everybody when I came on is that I found you via Instagram, and I found your stuff fascinating. So I went to look on your website and stalked your Instagram, and then also one or two things on YouTube, and it was absolutely amazing. But I think the people that don't know you, would you be so kind just to share what you do, where you're from, and all that?
Okay, so my name is Conrad. I'm a blacksmith, and Cape Town has been my home for forever. And what I do is mostly sculptural and architectural blacksmithing, but I also do make tools, and I make all the equipment that I use. Blacksmithing is actually about tool making. So I'm a tool maker, artist, sculptor.
Oh, fantastic. No, the stuff that I've seen is absolutely incredible. And there's a video I found on YouTube that you spoke about making your tools, and that was really great. It was that one where you, I think you did a W where you showed tools that you picked up.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not really familiar with which one you're talking about. So blacksmithing essentially is about tool making, because you've got to make everything that you use. You've got to make all the tongs, and you end up having to make your hammers and everything. So so one can pick up stuff, but in order to use it properly, you've got to actually be able to make them. And making things with your own hands, and then making other stuff with it, is really much more pleasurable than buying something and making something with it. It's you completely controlling your whole output and your expression. So it becomes kind of your tool becomes extension of your whole creative process.
Okay. Oh, that's one of the questions that came to mind when I found your stuff is that, and I believe you've been doing this for 30 plus years. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I started when I was 23 or something like that. Yeah.
But how does a 23-year-old get into blacksmithing?
Yeah, no, that was a very fortuitous period in my life. Obviously, it was in the 80s, and I had studied sculpture, and I had been making sculptures out of sheet metal and welding and all of that kind of thing. And then, after doing couple of jobs, I got a job doing restoration of furniture, and I had to do all the locks and hinges and things like that. And obviously, those were forged, made by a blacksmith in the days when those antiques were made. So I had to learn the techniques, on a smaller scale, and eventually it kind of got bigger and bigger, and I started doing larger pieces, and that's how it sort of started. But I never really saw myself as a blacksmith. That took another 10 years. But I started doing the work at that time.
Okay, but it must have pricked your brain in some way, that it interested you in such a way that you thought, okay, right, maybe I can do this on a more regular basis than just having to fix something here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I was a very, what they call, hyperactive kid, and in fact now I realize it's ADD. But what really it like hooked me when I started forging. I just really got completely captivated by the action of doing it. And you're hammering that material, and it completely occupies the whole of your mind and physical being. So it was something that really captivated me in a physical, emotional, and kind of psychological way. And I kind of got hooked into it. Whereas other things didn't really interest me. And so I was trying to remember your question. So that's basically, I think, what it was, that it kind of answered a whole lot of questions about what I could be doing with my life at the time.
And obviously, back in the 80s, it was difficult to do anything in terms of art, because back then it was guys had to play rugby, and you had to go work for 40 years in some corporate company. It's not like it is today. It's almost like you kind of think that people will take up like being a blacksmith for the fun of
Yeah.
it, stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
presume you had a tough time back in the 80s when you said to somebody, "Oh, I'm a blacksmith."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, first of all, there was no internet then. So, I didn't really know that there was such a thing as blacksmithing. There were a few books that I could get hold of, but they were kind of written in the 60s. There was a bit of a revival in America, and there were a few books that were published, and I managed to get hold of a couple of books. But yeah, there was also, it was still, I was kind of trying to, in the 80s, I was still trying to stay out of the army and, try and figure out what I wanted to do. And the whole gallery art world at the time was very kind of disappointing, and I wasn't it. The environment was completely different. As I said, it took me until 1991 before I could actually start a workshop and kind of actually build together enough tools to actually just do blacksmithing. But when I was in England, I had to leave the country because the military police were looking for me. So I went to the UK, and then I was trying to get work there, and also got restoration job there. But there was a blacksmith there, and I started working a little bit with him, and I also went to Spain to try get an apprenticeship, but that didn't work out because of my passport. And then I came back in 1991, and I just started a little. I had bought an anvil, so I think that story that you heard me telling was the story of the anvil. Yeah. Yes. So that I had bought that anvil, and that was in 1991. I came back to South Africa, and then the anvil drew me to start using it and set up a workshop around it and everything.
Yeah. And when did you get your first order? When was it that somebody said to Conrad, here's X amount of money I want that piece for my house? How did that get together?
Yeah. There was a guy, a young architect, Craig Kaplan is his name actually. I had been just making, actually, I'm not sure I was making. I was making stuff for the Grahamstown Festival, candlesticks. Mm. And he brought me a photograph out of a magazine, and he said, "Can you make this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I can make it." And he said, "Okay, well, how much will you charge me?" I gave him a price, and we did it. And that was actually my first job. There were little balconies for I think his mom's house or something like that.
Okay, it was like little. Like wrought iron balustrades kind of thing.
Yeah, like a little curly whirly panel, and then it got built into a balcony, and that was the start. And and I was doing everything by hand, So it was mostly heating and bending, and just a little bit of tapering. It wasn't really. I would buy off the shelf steel sizes and then just bend it and forge it a little bit, drill holes, rivet, and things like that. Very different to nowadays, where one's kind of completely forging your whole material. Yeah. That first job was it kind of everything evolved from there. I mean, yes. I was learning and working and buying tools and paying for it as I was going. Yeah.
Well, that's the best way to start something. I remember when I don't know if you looked at my Instagram page a little bit. I'm a photographer, yeah. And yes. I lost my job in 2009. I was in the plumbing industry for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And I always said to my wife, if I get some money, my pension money or whatever, I'll buy a camera just because I wanted one.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, I haven't found a new job yet, and all I had was my camera. So I just started knocking on the school's doors and saying, "Can I photograph like athletics or the Valentine's dance?" And it just it grew from there, and that's for 10 years. But those first hard work and often, but what builds all the character that people like you you did it, you put in all the hard work and suffered, and now it's paying for itself.
Yeah. Now, actually, looking back, I mean, I'm really very proud of that nobody really gave me any money to start a business. But on the other hand, you also know that you can't lose anything because you're starting with nothing. And every little bit is adding to the pile slightly. And you know that you're getting somewhere. You're not actually starting with a couple of 100,000, and you can't tell really if you're losing half of it to start,
And also, if someone lent you that money, they're going to come knocking on your door somewhere down the line saying that, listen, I want my piece of the pie.
Yeah. No, there's nothing for free. I mean, and it's great also to know that you can rely on yourself and you're doing something, and it's like that sense of independence. But yes, it was a hell of a steep learning curve, because I was, trying. I knew nothing about business, absolutely nothing, but how to deal with money, and I'd just come out of art school, and I was really not a sort of money orientated kind of person. But that has been a very good lesson on how to make your way with nothing. It's been great.
Do you get youngsters coming to you and asking you, they want to be a blacksmith one day? Do you get that?
Yeah, it started with a lot of overseas people used to come and work for me, because there was quite a few like online organizations, like the big guilds and things in Germany, the UK, and America started communicating with blacksmiths all over the place, and they set up these pages where people could go and do their journeyman thing, and then I said, okay, well, I'll host some people, and I've had, there was like 20 different guys and girls came through from all over the world working here. But recently, since Forged in Fire, I think all the young guys here sorry, my battery's a bit low. The young guys here in South Africa have been asking me, if they could do training, but most of them have got really no idea how to sort of how to kind of make themselves useful really in a workshop, and it's actually often much more of a pain in the arse than help. Although I do training, and I really do try and help people. I've trained a hell of a lot of people, but it's actually very difficult. So
yeah, but it's also like one of those things you only see in the movies. You see the metal being heated up and a guy pounding with a hammer, and next scene he's walking around with a sword that was handmade kind of thing. But it's not as easy as that.
No, X don't know how to work. They don't know that you got to sweat.
Yes.
For 4 years, and then maybe you can make something small. They think, oh, bang, 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 I know how to do it, and then they get nowhere, and then they get disappointed and they run away.
Or you get to in front of that furnace the first day and you say, holy shit, this thing is hot. You need to stand in this thing for 7 hours of the day, and that's not easy.
No, and then you're using your one arm the whole time, and you end up with like shoulder problems and you've got to be doing something for, I don't know, 5 years before you can actually start being good at it.
Yes.
It takes a long time. It's like playing a musical instrument. You've got to have that skill so that you're not consciously thinking. You've got to be able to just work without sort of having to be aware of all the steps. It's like a mixture between playing sport, doing a kind of a martial art, and playing a musical instrument. You've got to have it all very at your fingertips.
Oh, that's awesome. And did programs like Forge and Fire bring a new attention to your business, apart from youngsters wanting to find out about it? Did it bring in new kind of clients and all those kind of things?
Yeah, no, not really. It mostly brings people that are looking for the wrong kind of thing. Like, can you forge me a sword? Yeah, no, I can forge you a sword. How much is it going to cost? It'll cost you 200,000 rand. What? Why is it so expensive? Because it's 6 months' work. It's not 6 months, but it's like 3 months' work.
Yeah. And apart from that, it's 30 years of experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Forged and Fire, it does give some people an insight into what the whole bit of blacksmithing is about. So I'm just moving my setup here because I've got to plug my phone in. Mostly the guys that my clients are, art collectors and people who have quite a lot of experience, and they know what I am doing, because they've seen my exhibitions, my work, and it's 30 years of accumulating those clients and that sort of standard of work. Yeah. So that hasn't really influenced it that much. The Forged and Fire people did ask me twice actually if I would be on their show, and I declined it, because a lot of it's actually smoke and mirrors. And a lot of those guys are hacking, and yeah, it's a lot of time out of my day to go and be part of Forged and Fire.
Exactly. But did they film it, some of it in South Africa, or did you have to go to the States to do it?
Yeah, they wanted me to go there.
Oh.
I didn't go, but they wanted me to. I declined it.
Yeah, because it's obviously time equals money in your industry, so you needed to get stuff done. And
I'm also sorry. I mean, it's also I'm more of a sculptor. I mean, that's my thing. And Forged and Fire is more orientated around knives. It's the wrong. I mean, I do make knives, but it's not really my market. Essentially, it's not really my client, and I don't want to be. The thing that I'm saying is that I'm actually an artist. It's not about knives and stuff. Although knives are beautiful tools, I love them. It's essentially a different concept, coming at it from a different side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when you do art, or you get people that commission you, and I know I've got clients that get me to do work for them, and they say, Dewald, you're the creative person, just make it happen. And then I've got to sit there and figure out what it is that I must do for them. The stuff that you make, because it's really, really interesting things, is it stuff that you come up with, or does the client say to you, well, this is the kind of room and feel and stuff that I want, and then you play around until you've got something?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, in the beginning, it was doing things that people kind of wanted, and the more I found that I put my own influence into it, actually the more successful it was. So now people actually just want me to do completely what I want to do. Although, if somebody asks me for a gate, they'll say, can you make me a gate? And generally I'll just come up with completely my own design. And a gate to me is kind of like a sculpture. It's just flat. Yeah. Or it's like a painting in metal. It's really, up to my own interpretation now. Now it's, I have free reign really, and then the sculpture is not commissions. You know, if I do an exhibition, then I generate a whole lot of work from it, which is quite a part of a process. It's like an artistic investigation, and then each of those pieces is part of a story that I'm trying to express. You know, so it does have a source, but it's generated sort of internally.
It's your stuff is really amazing stuff. There's some of those things are. I just look at it and I think, how the hell do you come up with that idea? It looks like an insect legs, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, mostly the ideas evolve in the making of it. So I've done something similar, and then I know that I want to explore it. But I start getting ideas when I'm working, and actually while I'm working, I recognize a thing that captures what I'm trying to say, you know. But you know, it's like, imagine it's the same as photography. You can look at an image and you can say that is really what, in essence, I'm trying to express. But you can't go. You have to recognize it in the image, and then you choose it, and then you capture it. It's the same in working. So I have to work, and then I see something, and then I'll start bringing it out. I mean, there is another way of working where you draw everything very precisely, and you calculate everything, and then you construct it, and then it's kind of it can be very beautiful, but it's not a discovery then. It's a different thing, and then it is a very left brain predictable thing, but it doesn't teach you anything. So, and there's so much to be discovered when you work intuitively, and you recognize your voice. So I mean, it may sound like it's a funny thing, because it's a very industrial environment which I'm working, and I'm talking about very kind of abstract art principles about the way that I work. So it's a kind of quite a contrast.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And also, those are the times that you learn the most, because you've got time to play around and figure it out, and then you might teach yourself a new technique that you know that you can use it. If a client comes around and says, I want something that does this, you know, I used that technique in building my own sculpture.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times you know, I don't know if you can see behind me, there's tools, you know, these beautiful machines. The way that machines are built, and the tools and the tool forms, especially the anvil, really, I would say the word is a bit of a cliche to say inspire, but they draw out of me a kind of a language that it needs to be expressed, but it comes through tools. So the use of tools, and so I must just try and get my wording right here. So if, let's say, a blacksmith makes tools, but some of the tools their primary function can be to communicate. Like an image is a tool, or a word in a poem is a tool to communicate something. So we essentially, we humans, you know, like man, all we do is make tools, and they can be abstract tools and systems, and like language and mathematics and all, they're all abstract tools. And artistic creation is also an abstract tool for communication. But so being a blacksmith, the tool making part of it is very directly connected to my humanity, or the fact that I'm a man making making an object, which is essentially a tool. Yeah.
Oh,
That's like my whole mission is in there. Yeah.
And how often you get to like a function or something, or a group of people? Well, when we could still have groups of people around, because everybody asks, "Hey, what do you do? Where you from?" So, and you say to them, "Listen,
Yeah.
I'm a blacksmith." Do people look at you funny? Or is it a good conversation starter?
Yeah. Well, it used to be, but people, yeah, what does a blacksmith do? It used to be like, oh, do you shoe horses? And or do you work on the railways? Which a lot of blacksmiths obviously used to work on the railways. But it's changed, actually. People generally nowadays know what a blacksmith is. I think it's because of that program on TV. So they're like, oh wow, that's amazing. Especially the young guys, they all know. It's had this massive revival. So, but I think the big question is like, how do you earn a living? And really, that's quite a long. I say, you've got to just be really good. I mean, then you can earn a living.
Yeah, and also, like you said, those skills that you've learned 20 years ago, how to deal with clients, how to work with them, all that counts. It's not. I always say you can be the very best surgeon coming out of university. It's not to say that you're going to run a successful practice, because you've got no idea of business.
Yeah. No, business is essentially, a business is also having the self-confidence to say, this is what I'm worth, and this is what it's going to cost you. And then it's a kind of a feedback loop. If you really do good work, you can charge a lot, and then if you charge a lot, you can do good work, because you can put a lot of time and effort into it, and it tends to build. But that was quite a very important business lesson. But it's also, about growing up and becoming a bit older and more confident in what I was doing.
I always say to people, if they say, well, what should I charge for something? And I say, well, you can always go cheaper. You can never go more expensive. So it's if somebody comes to you and says, listen, I want to buy something, and you say to them, no, it's 10,000 Rand, and they come to you and say, oh, it's too expensive. I've only got 7.5. Then you can decide, okay, right, I can, for 7.5, that's fine, we can do it. But if you price him, say 7.5, and he had a budget of 15, you're losing 7,000 on the deal. So
and then also is if you put out a price or something that is below your what you should be charging, just to get the work, or just to try and help somebody out, or because you think they're going to come back to you, they're going to expect to pay the same next time. So you're always going to be underselling yourself. So you're actually shooting yourself in the foot. You've always got to charge properly, and if they don't take it, then they must go away, actually.
But it never works like that. That they will tell their friends, now listen, I paid 15,000 Rand for that thing, instead of saying to them, you paid 7.5. They're going to say, I got a bargain. I paid 7.5 for it. It's worth 15. And then their friends is also going to ask you for the same price. Their friends is not going to pay more for it.
Yeah. Well, you've got to. That's the thing. You've got to have rich clients that like to actually say they spend. People, rich people really like to post and tell their friends how much they spent on it, and then it becomes a competition. How much people can spend.
The friend comes to you and says, "Listen, I want something that's more expensive than what he has." Yes. So then
that's the right kind of client.
Yeah, well, they are difficult to find, but if you do find them, you must hang on to them.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, it takes time, and there are people around the world who are interested in the best of my little niche that I do, and I think that you do find the right clients eventually, but yeah, so 30 years.
And how much of those small things do you make these days, like balustrades and gates and those kind of things? Do you still get you still sell a number of them, or is it more the art pieces that you sell at the moment?
I do actually do small jobs, and I do tool making for people, because I think it's part of it's like it's a trade, and you can't lose sight of the fundamentals, and sometimes, you know, I can do something very beautiful very quickly and not charge too much, because it's a very simple technique. So, and then I do it, you know, and it often works out. I mean, I make frying pans and things like that, I made tooling, and I worked out a design, and I've been producing frying pans, which are really great frying pans, and my kids were selling them on the market, and so I've got no issues with only being an artist. I think it's I like to. It's a trade, you know. I like to actually do all aspects of it, yeah. I'm not fussy like that. But if there's sometimes if people want something for too little, I'd rather give it to them, you know, rather than, you know.
And all those frying pans are interesting me now. It's a lot of the stuff you see is cast iron. Do you make it from cast iron, or do you forge it?
No, forge it. No.
Oh, that would be. How do you get it to be completely smooth and flat at the bottom? So
it's a tool. I press it, stamp it. I mean, I can show you, but I have to carry the phone around.
Oh, that's,
so
that's if you want. I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of. There's actually. I mean, the workshop is actually a very interesting thing to see.
Oh no, I saw. Amazing.
Yeah. So. So there's the fire behind me.
Okay.
And that's what heats up the stuff. Here's a pile of pans. You can see those guys have just come out of the tool. There's the tool.
Okay. Okay. Now I understand.
Here are the round ones. And the round tool is, so I've just got to go scratch under a pile of scrap. The round tool's on a different press. It's over there.
Okay.
And there's another tool of the bigger one down at the bottom behind that anvil there. I'm busy reorganizing my workshop, so it's a little bit of chaos here.
Can one buy those pans on your website?
Yeah. It's not my website. It's the tool room. It's called.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that tool room thing because it's like a nice metaphor for selling all sorts of functional art products and things like that. I also do knives and stuff and sell them there.
Yeah, to ask you about, and I watch these things on, like you lay in bed at like 1:30 in the morning, and you awaken all through these videos on Facebook, and I always find these things where they're making stuff in Damascus steel, and they're welding it together, and it's bolts they twist together. Those things are fascinating to me, and love watching those things. Those Damascus steel knives are amazing.
Yeah, I make a lot of that. Have you seen them? Have you seen my Damascus knives?
Just what you've posted on Instagram and
yeah. mean, it doesn't look like much when you're working on it because where is that one? Oh, it's over here. Because you have to etch it in acid to get the pattern out. But
Okay.
I can show you. This is the rough forging. The handle is as it kind of sort of comes off the anvil, and then that part has already been ground. And I don't know if you can see the pattern coming through there.
Yes, yes.
I dipped it in acid a couple of hours ago, and as you can see, it's already starting to tarnish. But yeah, I mean, all of these knives to me are more like a hobby, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, those.
Yeah, there's another something. Yeah, I mean, he has an ads. Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's it's kind of like an axe, but it's used for carving.
It's almost like a hoe that.
Yeah.
And how many of those things came about for you just sitting in the workshop, didn't have any work for clients, and just start playing with like scrap pieces of metal and see what you can make with it?
Yeah. The knives was like that because I had a lot of bandsaw blades, and then I started forging. So I thought, okay, I'll start forging knives. There was an old guy who worked for me. He was a tool maker. That this was about 10 years ago. He was also a knife maker. And so he kind of got me interested in the knives. But that learning to do Damascus, I've been doing that for about 10 years and only now kind of getting on top of it. So there's a bit of angle grinding going on in the background. Because it's not really my primary source of income. So I kind of do it on and off, and I don't do kind of production of them. So they're not. They're more like little art pieces, and I take my time and do them. But then each one tends to be different. So and I don't really do the same thing ever more than once. So So I'm rambling on a little bit, but they're not. The knives are great, but they don't make money. Essentially, what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but I'm pretty sure there'll be a chef or somebody out there coming to you and said, "Listen, I want a Conrad Hicks knife," and
yeah. No, it's happening. I mean, a lot of people. We had an exhibition at the end of last year with some of South Africa's top knife makers, and we had it here at my workshop in the Bijou, and I decided to have an exhibition of only chef's knives.
Okay.
As opposed to what a lot of the other knife makers are doing, chef's knives hasn't been a big tradition in South Africa. I think because there's a lot of hunting and stuff. People haven't really got into chef's knives. They make a lot of daggers and hunting knives and things like that. And whereas a chef's knife you can actually sell for a lot more money because it's more of an artwork and more accepted. And chefs are niche, will spend anything on having the best stuff.
Yes.
So that exhibition was very successful. We sold, about 250,000 rands worth of knives in 3 days. And we weren't even trying to sell that much. The whole point was to just have an exhibition of amazing knives.
Yes.
And, the prices were between 8 and 20,000 rand. So they really were expensive, and we sold most of them. So it was a very successful thing.
That's amazing.
But still didn't really make money. But that's not the aim.
Yeah, no, I completely get the thing with the chefs and their knives because it's like a hairdresser and their scissors. They'll spend $3,000 on a pair of decent scissors for cutting hair. But then if that thing comes close to a piece of paper or wool, they will shoot you.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah.
Have you made scissors before?
No. But I know guys who have made scissors. Yeah. But I mean, I sharpened scissors, and I have had these Japanese scissors that they hand forged are quite nice. But I haven't got around to making one yet.
I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
Is there anything interesting that you want to show us that you're busy with, or that you can show, or anything like that?
Yeah, I can show you. Look, I just want to ask you a technical question. Can I flip the camera in this thing? Or do I have to use the front camera?
You're really asking a technical question.
Okay, well, let's do this. So this stuff is all, let's see what, there, is that, yeah. This is all, can you see these pieces properly? That's all copper. And it's a sculpture that's going to the States, and it's all forged from a big 100 millimeter by 400 millimeter block of copper each piece. That's what I'm busy working on mostly. I can show you some of the tools.
A question about the piece. If you say it's copper, are you going to polish that to get the copper color, or is it you're going to leave that rough greenish tinge to it?
It'll be both. So here you can actually see this. There's the natural color of the copper. That's what it looks like when it's come out of the fire. But if you rub it, you can see that it starts getting quite a beautiful pattern immediately. And then so I will polish it, and it'll bring out all the forging marks and everything. And then I'll probably throw a bit of acid on it, and it'll give more kind of texture and color and stuff. And that will definitely happen. Yeah, it'll actually look mostly like bronze when it's done. But bronze is difficult to forge.
Do you buy up scrap metal from like scrap yards and use that, or do you have a supply like blocks of metal for whatever you use it for?
Well, the copper I have to buy in bar, but you know, here's a pile of scrap. That's another big pile of scrap that I use, and in this pile is wrought iron and old plows and old farm equipment and things, which I'm busy sorting. So I use a lot of collected iron, especially the wrought iron. You can't get it anymore. But then when I make tools, you know, you have to, and the knives, you know, you have to buy material, knowing exactly what it is, and that's got to be specific tool steel. So then I have to buy it off the shelf, and I can show you. That is EN24. That's a very special steel. This steel actually I got from the scrapyard, but it is tool steel. There's a lot of very special tool steel behind the lathe. Yeah. So, you know, I do both, but I try not to spend too much money on buying brand new high-tech materials, because it's very expensive.
Yes. And also it will take, I might be completely wrong in saying this, but it might take away a lot of the look and feel from your final product if you buy virgin material.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, the virgin thing is quite interesting, because the wrought iron is mostly antique in itself, and it was made, you know, at that stage, when people were making wrought iron, there was no recycling of steel yet. Nowadays, all steel is recycled and it's got all sorts of rubbish in it. But that wrought iron, that old wrought iron, is stuff that's come out of the ground, gone through the smelter, and it's pure original. It's like working with yellow wood or something. You know, it's like the real thing.
And how often do you find that? Because I presume it's still pretty scarce. So do you go around scrapyards, scratching around in piles, and find gem sitting in between them?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, the scrapyards in the country towns, like Riversdale, for example, I get a lot of stuff there because that comes from the Karoo, like the wagon parts and farm implements. You get a lot of really nice material out of. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But I've always, if I've got an extra 15 or 20 grand that I can spend on a toy for myself, I will buy a metal detector, because I want to go. You drive into the Karoo and you see all these houses next, but that's all abandoned. There used to be people that scan around that thing and see what is. You're obviously going to pick up a lot of junk as well, but there might be some amazing things in the ground around those houses.
Yeah. I had an exhibition, and a lot of, I mean, I called, I actually call most of my pieces implementer, you know,
Okay, yeah.
Because of that whole thing, you know, looking around in the yard, and then you see all these old implementer lying there, and they tell us such a incredible story, like the history of the farm and what all the, you know, the stuff that they towed behind the horse and the old tractors, and the old implementer are sculptures in themselves.
Yeah, it's one of these days. And okay, one of the last questions I've got is: have you made guns?
No, that's a bit difficult, I think. I mean, it's a complete trade on its own. People have asked me to make Damascus for them to make guns. So I've made the material.
Okay.
But I haven't made something myself. No.
No,
I mean, you got to have a license, but we do play around with gunpowder.
Oh, okay. What, to get certain textures and stuff out of the metal?
No. We did there's a blacksmith's day, and I've forgotten when it is. I think it's in September. But I used to do this thing in my workshop where you put an anvil upside down, and then it's got a little hole in it on the base, and then you fill it with gunpowder, and then you put another anvil on top of it, and it closes it off, and it's enough pressure for that gunpowder to explode, and then for it to shoot the anvil, you know, kind of 20 meters into the air with a big bang. So I used to do that quite a lot, and then until some of them started cracking, and so we stopped. Yeah.
Sounds more like fun. But yeah, you need a special. So you're saying you need a special license to make guns, but I might be completely wrong. And the Damascus steel that you make, do you make like that? They use it for the barrels, or do they use it for the checkering on the side, or what do they use that for?
Yeah, I think the stuff that I made was just for a guy to do decorative stuff. Okay. Breeches and things. You know, I don't think it was for the barrel. No. But it's not difficult to make.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The right steel, and yeah.
I've seen some of these. They make really beautiful barrels, and it looks like a twisted wrought iron. It's actually twisted on the outside as well. It's stunning.
Yes, yeah, for shotguns and things.
Yeah, it'll probably be machined stainless steel that they use for that.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, it's not for the shotguns and things. It's not high pressure. So it's not that sophisticated material. Yeah, I mean, it comes from the original handmade guns in the, sort of couple of 100 years ago. And there's the reason why it had those patterns on was because that was a way of them kind of equalizing the stresses in the material when they made the barrels.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on an hour. Is there anything else you want to chat about? It's been really interesting.
Well, let me show you the main hammers. I mean, this is these guys. You see that? There you can see that guy. That guy is what I work on most. Should I turn it on for you? It's quite. I think it might be interesting. That's what it does. And there's a little one there. This is another one.
Those machines look old. Are they antique machines or are they relatively new?
No, those two are from, say, the 1930s. The other green one there on the left is the East German one, so it's probably 50s. This guy over here is 1910.
Jeez,
and
things.
Yeah. Huh?
Where did you find
that one? That one's an American one. That one was the first one I bought. That one is I think a Belgian one that has also got a very interesting story. But that one I'm busy restoring. And then there's there underneath the staircase a couple of old steam hammers that I saved from the scrap. But yeah, I just find them. The first one I showed you came from Germiston, from Lasher.
Okay.
And they used it for making stuff on the mines. And I bought them, I don't know, it must be 25 years ago. So at the time they decommissioned them, they were selling them for scrap. These two. That one was used to make flanges on the Coburg power station. So I think they brought it out from America, and when it was built, they stopped using it and sold it. They sold it to me for scrap as well.
Sure. Yeah. And if you say it's scrap, what did you pay for them back then? And what are they worth now?
That one I paid, I think it was 7,000 Rand.
Yeah.
And it's worth now probably about 250,000. It's not in working condition yet. There's some problems with it, but if it was full in perfect condition, it would be about that 250 grand.
But it's
these two, yeah.
That's one of the problems that the internet brought, is that you can't really pick bargains like that anymore, because everybody will Google the bloody thing and they say, oh, okay, right, this thing is not just the scrap metal's worth, it's actually thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, but the thing is that there's no market really for these. There's nobody who's really got any work for them still. So there's a couple of blacksmiths in Cape Town. I've sold one hammer to I've sold a few hammers, but it has to be the right guy at the right time, and very few people will want them. So you can't really sell them for that full price anyway. It's like having cars,
Yeah. How's the competition and camaraderie between the other blacksmiths in Cape Town? Because I know the photographers, you obviously kick them out from every second bush on next to the street, but the people will cut their own throats for 2 Rand. What's it like in the blacksmith fraternity, if I may call it that?
No, it's great. I mean, uh, in Cape Town, a lot of them, they used to actually work for me, I think, and uh, yeah. So not all of them, but there's only three. I mean, there's a couple of guys just doing hobby, quite a few guys doing hobby stuff. In Joburg, there's a few, but we all know each other and we lend each other stuff and pass work around. And especially now at this time, I've given quite a bit of work to them. And we're all mates, and it's a great thing. It's really nice. Share information and help each other.
And how has this whole COVID-19 mess affected your business?
Well, I mean, this lockdown thing, I was able to actually stay in my workshop in the beginning, so I could carry on working. I've got so much work. I mean, I've got a year's worth of work, and that has I've had for a while. So it's not, like quick turnover stuff which comes easily and goes easily. It's I've got work, and I think I'll be okay. But having said that, I am quite worried about the future in the next couple of years, because I don't know so much about people buying art, and the amount of money that's going to be going around is going to be obviously a hell of a lot less. But I mean, talking about it, I do feel that I have something to say, and I think one of the big problems with this whole COVID thing, and the problem with society in general, is that people have completely lost touch with what real value is, and what things are actually worth. I mean, it's most people are just interested in branded goods, where the actual price of the thing has got really very little to do with the actual value of it. And it's mostly about perceived value, not about inherent value. And I think that's going to change. I think we're going to hopefully see a return to things, an appreciation of proper value and what really matters. And with buying stuff that is really good, really means something, is going to last. And I think a general sort of spiritual return to proper values. I hope crisis can bring positive changes.
Yes. No, it's, and I've said it to most people I've spoken to, is that I think there's going to be more positivity coming out of the whole situation we're in at the moment than that there's going to be negative coming from it. If the people that can keep their head above water, I think at the end of this, because the type of clients that we're going to have to deal with, they're going to, like you said, they're going to know what they want to spend their money on, and they are not going to they're not just going to spend it for the sake of spending it. So that's that's where we need to, wouldn't say capitalize on it, but I think that's where the plus point is. If we can, then they will appreciate us and we'll keep them for longer.
I mean, I also don't mind going back to making burglar bars. I started like that. I'm always gonna have something to do. If I don't sell sculpture for a lot of money, there's lots of things I can do.
Yeah, there's always a market for burglar bars in South Africa.
Exactly. I'm not too precious to not do it.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. We need to be flexible. But something that we noticed, and obviously with this whole thing that we can exercise, we've taken the kids out because they haven't been off the yard for like the last 6 weeks. So we've taken in Worcester, I live, we've got lots of hills around the back, and there's like trails that you can go walk and run and cycle.
Yes.
And obviously there's a lot of people on the trails in the morning, but since this thing opened, people are actually greeting each other. My wife and
Yeah.
I, we greet each other.
Yeah.
The people are greeting us. It never
No,
used to. You just go by and guy just nod his head. Now it's like more.
yeah.
And that's awesome to see.
It's become small towns in neighborhoods.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no,
No,
fantastic.
it's a good.
Right.
Okay, man.
Conrad, I want to say thank you. It was really interesting, and hopefully when all the stuff is gone and I can travel to Cape Town again, I would love to come and just visit your workshop there and just see it, because I love the look and the texture and everything that you've got in there. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you must come and have a peek. Yeah. Just put aside a bit of time.
Yeah, we have a couple of coffees and talk nonsense and everything.
That'll be great. Look forward to it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to chat to me on this thing.
No, it's a pleasure, Dewald. Yeah, it's interesting. I've got to do this more often.
Yeah, no, it's I started this thing in the lockdown as a little fun project, and it's grown quite a bit, and I'm actually enjoying it a lot. So
yeah, cool, great. Nice to chat.
Have an awesome evening.
Cheers.
All right, bye-bye.